And welcome back. We are studying the 15th chapter of the Gospel of John with Dr. John Pauline. And Dr. Pauline, so Jesus talks about love, and now the following 3 verses, he is talking about friends. And why don't I go ahead and read that? And we are in starting verse 14. You are my friends if you do whatever I command you. No longer do I call you servants, for a servant does not know what his master is doing, but I have called you friends, for all things that I have heard from my Father I have made known to you. So let me ask you a question. Do you have friends?
I guess it depends on what you mean by friends. You know, you ask a lot of people that question, like, oh yeah, I've got 428 friends. You know, well, how do you know that you have 420? Well, Facebook. You know.
Facebook friends.
Oh, okay. So that's sort of virtual friends. You know, when I was younger, we would have called that imaginary friends. But,
wow.
But the interesting thing about it is that these technologies actually do give us opportunities that we would not have otherwise. And let me turn it another way, because, you know, we don't have a physical relationship with Jesus. We don't see, hear, or touch him. So in a real sense, he comes to us in a virtual way. And I think people who do work with Facebook, you make fun of it and so on, especially us oldsters who don't know how to use it that much can joke about it. But the interesting thing is, I look at the younger generation, it's real for them. They take this very seriously. They love Facebook. They love the way they can connect with people and stay connected even though they're thousands of miles apart, you see. And they would say to you that relationship is as real as the ones they have with faces nearby.
Well, I'm glad Jesus didn't say, you are my Facebook friends.
But you know, it's a great analogy for today.
Yeah.
Because I think, for example, you and I have become friends. You know, we didn't know each other until fairly recently. And I like that face-to-face, that fist-to-fist contact, you know. That's really, really good. But it could well be that after we're done with this series of programs, we may not see each other again, or we may be separated most of our lives by thousands of miles. And the wonderful thing about Facebook is that it enables people to stay in touch. And some people say, I don't believe in prayer because it's like talking to the ceiling. Yeah, but if you believe in Facebook, you better believe in prayer. Because prayer is simply heaven's Facebook. It's staying in connection with God, you see. And so I think it's kind of given us an interesting analogy for understanding the spiritual side that John is talking about. John is saying relationship can be real even though you don't see each other, touch each other, hear each other. That relationship is mediated through the connections of the Bible, through prayer, and so on. And that's our Facebook with God.
I never really thought about it that way, but
neither did I.
You
drew it out from me.
Well, that's good. So what else does Jesus have to say about social networks here?
Well, I think this is very important here in verses 13 to 15, because he says here, I no longer call you servants. Now, many people see that word servants and they think of driving Miss Daisy or some other thing where there's a person who's paid to be with a rich person and take care of them. And it doesn't sound like a bad thing. Most people would rather be a servant in a rich person's house than live on the street, you know. But that's not really the term here. In the Greek, the term here, doulos, really means slave. A person who is not willing. And Jesus is contrasting 2 types of relationship with God. There's the slave relationship with God, where you do what you're told because you have to. And God is this tyrant who rules over your life and makes you do things you don't want to do. Jesus says, that's not the kind of relationship I want with you. I don't want you to be servants. I call you friends. And friends are like equals. He is honoring us by raising us up to his level. Friendship happens when people are at the same level. This is an incredible honor that he is giving. And more than this, notice what it says here, that I have called you friends, for everything that I learned from my Father, I've made known to you. You see, Jesus is friends with his Father. And now he's calling us to be friends with him. And that means that we're friends with the Father. I've met so many Christians that believe they can be friends with Jesus, but the Father is kind of this judge, who's scary and out there somewhere, and you can't really have a relationship with. Jesus is trying to get us to completely rearrange our understanding of God. And he says here, God is your friend. The Father wants to be your friend, not to have you as a slave.
Now, verse 14, speaking of friends, does have a condition, though. Jesus says, you are my friends if you do whatever I command you. So there is that condition of friendship, is what I understand what Jesus is saying. You're my friends if you do what I say.
Well, as friends, of course, we are going to do the things that please each other.
We're going to get along, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to try to please you, and otherwise
Absolutely.
it wouldn't work out.
And it isn't hard. See, that's the difference. Yes, there are commands in the Bible. Of course, just like the owner of a car commands you to change the oil every so often, I mean, that's important if you want the car to survive, you see. And yes, there are rules to relationship, but the rules are not there to make a relationship miserable. The rules are there to set boundaries so we know where we stand within a relationship. And as we love each other as friends, we do the things that please the other because we love the relationship and want it to continue. So the commands of God become joys. They become delights. He's letting us know how we can please him. And that's the beautiful side of this.
So it's not like Jesus saying, no, you want to be my friends here, take all these commands, follow them, and then you'll be my friends.
Yeah, be a slave to these commands, and then we'll be
It's
friends.
not that way.
No.
It's more of we take pleasure and joy that we're actually following the commands of Jesus. That's our pleasure to serve him, and then we become his friends, or well, we've always been his friends, I suppose.
Some people say commands are bad, freedom is good. They bridle at this. But that's the key here is not commands or no commands. The key is the attitude with which we come at it. If we obey God as slaves, then we're not affecting his character at all. If we obey God as friends, it's a totally different kind of relationship. And that brings us to the last part of the chapter, which our time is getting short. Let's move quickly there. Verses 18 to 21. This elaborates and explains this.
If the world hates you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world would love its own. Yet because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. Remember the word that I said to you, a servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will also persecute you. If they have kept my word, they will keep yours also. But all these things they will do to you for my name's sake, because they do not know him who sent me.
So Jesus says the world hates you. So the question is, what does it mean by the world here? There's a number of options. It can be the planet. Does the planet hate us? Probably not. It can be people, the people we engage every day. Most of the time they don't hate us, or we wouldn't spend a lot of time with them. Is it the systems, human systems? That can be the world in the Bible. Governmental systems, religious systems that persecute, and so on. The fourth option is the temptations of Satan. That is the world, the things that draw us away from God. I think when you look at the context, world here is the systems, human systems, that persecute people of God. Human systems are there for political gain. Jesus is not political, and yet his faith has political implications. When you follow Jesus, it threatens the systems of the world, and just as they hated him, they tend to hate us as well. So those who follow Jesus, who take this cruciform way of life, they end up out of step with the systems of the world. Let's go on to the last verses 22 through 25, because that will bring things together, I think, in a powerful way.
He who hates me hates my Father also. If I had not done among them the works which no one else did, they would have no sin, but now they have seen and have also hated both me and my Father. But this happened that the word might be fulfilled, which is written in their law. They hated me without a cause.
Who hated Jesus? Did Pilate hate Jesus? No. Did Herod hate Jesus? not the current one, the previous one perhaps a little bit, but really the people that he's talking about here are religious people. They are people who are following God. They are hating Jesus because of his picture of God. They would end up putting him on a cross. And imagine this, these are people who keep the Sabbath. These are people who keep the commandments of God. These are people who go to worship every week. And God comes down to them and shows them what God is like, and they hate that picture of God, and they destroy him. They put him up on the cross, and they can't wait for him to die so they can go home and keep the Sabbath.
That's hard to imagine for someone who follows God, yet hates his son.
But it's the picture of God that you have. If you believe that God is vengeful and judgmental and kills and destroys everything that gets in his way, then you will be that way as a religious person. And there have been so many religions. We know of some even today. There are so many religions through history that have killed thousands, millions of people in the name of God. You see? You become like the God you worship. And if your God is angry, hateful, judgmental, if that's the view you have of God, you will be that way to other people. And when they came with this view of God, they did all the right things. They kept all the rules. But when God showed up, they killed him. Because he offered a picture that didn't fit with their picture of God. They felt perfectly justified in destroying Jesus because that's what God would do. If he were, I'm just acting out for God. And when some of these terrorists are blowing people up, they're doing what their God would do in their place. You become like the God you worship. And that is why it is so important to capture this idea of a God who wants to be our friend. Because if we think of God as friendly and kind and warm toward us, we would be more likely to treat other people in his name the same way.
Well, Dr. Pauline, now that you and I are friends, can I call you John?
You can. You can.
Well, friends, we thank you for being with us in this program. Jesus is your true friend. God bless you till next time.